Welcome to East Meets West, and today I have another special guest. Yes, these guests are chosen very specially because I know their expertise and I know what they bring to the game. And today I have a really good friend from the John Maxwell team that is here with me, and he has a really interesting topic that we're going to talk about in building a high performance team and this culture of high performance that I think many organizations are struggling right now. So my good friend and colleague here, Cristian. Yes, so we meet up a lot in the IMCs, which is the John Maxwell Conference, and we also meet up on different country transformational exercise with John Maxwell and many other coaches. But I know Cristian's heart of serving and helping people, and it's something I think we run in all of the John Maxwell. Well, I would think all of the John Maxwell team members. And, a little bit about Cristian. Cristian is a seasoned high performance coach. As I said, he's the expert in this here. With over 8 years of experience, he has consistently propelled organization to excellence. He has past 4 years, he had played a pivotal role in securing SIM to 4 regional awards. Yes. So you can imagine the value that Cristian is going to be adding to you here today. And 12 industry leading accolades for 3 different organizations. So beyond these accolades, he's known for his fostering high performance, non-dependent culture that strives even in the face of adversity and crisis. I must add, he has 23 years of military, I would say high performance in the U.S. Air Force. But I told him, Cristian, I would not be able to, give justice to the quality and the character of his personality and what he stands for. So I'm gonna stop talking and ask him to just share a little bit more. I know there's so much more about him that he may not be able to tell, but he can share a little bit more to add to what I just said. Welcome,
No,
Cristian.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. I think beyond the high performance, beyond the military, I think the things that I think I'm really proud of is, being married for over 20 years, having 3 amazing children. One is playing college basketball, the other one just started college, and then my daughter's going into middle school. And, those are the things that are important, is to be able to have, a beautiful life and a beautiful family. I think one of the things that I struggled with, when I decided that I wanted to go from working in the military to building my own business, is I wanted to build a life, not a business. And so, being able to balance those things and, put the things that are important where they're supposed to be was really important. And I think that's one of the things that people miss when they're building a great culture, right? And so for me, it all is full circle. So I'm most proud of my family. The things that I've been able to accomplish in the military are all great. The things that I've been able to accomplish in my career are great, but it's more important that the people around me say that I am who I say I am versus, just, paper saying it. Like, paper is great, but that was like once upon a time.
I hear you. And it's more credible when others can testify, of your work, of the things you do and all of that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Cristian. I know that you're a very busy person, but today you've taken out this time for us to learn from you. And I know many people around the world actually are looking at this program, and people give feedback. Shanti, I love what that speaker said there, and it's something that I've started to practice because I've learned that. So I know the value you will bring here today, and so we want to thank you for your time in adding value here today. So let's talk about this high performance team. Every company right now is talking, we want a team that will perform. We want to build a culture of high performance. And what does that look like? And how do we get there?
Yeah, so I think I was having this conversation recently with a mentor and an individual that was doing something similar, but they were in a different space. So what they were doing is they were consulting on how to generate more revenue for the business. And most businesses, most organizations look at how can I make more money. That's the first thing that they look at, right? And one of the things that I shared is the easiest way for you to make more money is to hire the right characteristics. And so for most people, we struggle because we're trying to rush to build certain things, do certain things. And I think you have to focus on, not I think, I know that you have to focus on hiring attitude. If you hire somebody that has a great attitude, 9 times out of 10, you can teach them the skill set. And so I will give you and I believe that attitude is everything. It's foundational. It's the key. And I'm going to give you an example. So I was traveling. I do a lot of traveling for my business, and I did a lot of traveling with the military. And recently I was traveling. The airport that I was at was really small. I mean, imagine being in an airport where, and not a lot of people can understand this, but most people may. This airport, the counter was probably, 10 feet away from the airplane. Not big, like it was small airport. And I was walking up to the counter. And as I walked up to the counter, the lady's smiling. I'm smiling. I'm used to traveling. I walk up and I go, I'm checking in for my flight. She goes, great. She takes my information. She looks down. She looks up. She looks at me and I go, is everything okay? She goes, you're not going to miss your flight. She says, you're not going to make your flight. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not going to make my flight? She was like, you're a minute late. I said, did you just say I'm a minute late? And she said, yes. And so I'm thinking to myself, 1 minute, like, I'm not understanding what's going on. So I kind of walk away from the counter and I'm thinking to myself, man, this is awful. Like, I'm a minute late. This lady, she could have literally told me to run up to the counter. Hey, if you're checking in for this coming flight, why don't you, like, something, right? She didn't do any of that. And so I had to call the airline. I had to figure out what was going on. They were telling me that, the policies, this and this. I was like, this airport is not a large airport. Like, I've been to bigger airports and it's not that big of a deal. So they're like, well, this is the policy. And I said, okay, great. They got me on the next flight. Now, what's interesting is the very next flight that I had with the same airline at a different airport. So I get to the train that I'm supposed to be providing. Now, if you've been to New Orleans, one thing that I did not know about New Orleans is they have 2 airports that are next to each other, like about an hour apart, right? And so I land in one airport and I assume that my flight is out of that same airport, right? So I go to the wrong airport. I show up. As I'm pulling up to the counter, I'm smiling. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to be late. I was 2 hours early. So I was like, I'm going to make sure I'm early this time. I walk up to the counter, give the lady my ID. She smiles at me. And then she looks down, she looks up, she looks at me. I'm like, uh-oh, not again. And I said, ma'am, I am 2 hours early. It is a great day. And she was like, you're absolutely right. It is a great day. Mr. Martinez, I got good news and I got bad news. And I said, okay, give me the good news. She goes, good news is you're 2 hours early. And I said, okay, great. She goes, bad news, you're at the wrong airport. I was like, oh my goodness. And she goes, but she said, but wait. And she's like, starts typing. And all of a sudden, what I thought was going to be the worst day, she looks at me and she says, okay, Mr. Martinez, I was able to get you rebooked. You're going to leave out of this airport. You're not going to miss your connection. And I hope that you have great travels today. In that moment, I took a picture of her and I said, this is what having a great attitude is like. This is what having a high performance culture looks like. Somebody that has a great attitude, somebody that goes out of their way to serve the customer, to make sure that they understand that they are what's most important. If you think back, the first airport was small. Like, this airport that I went to, the second one, was huge. I mean, it was one of the biggest airports that I've been at. And I'm thinking to myself, this lady did not have to do that, but she did. And oftentimes I think people forget to be empathetic. They forget that they're going to go through something like this in the future. They forget that this may happen to me. And so for me, I always think about, if you're going to have a high performance culture, you know, when you ask somebody, how are you doing today? Are they the type of person that when they get up in the morning, they're going to say, good God, it's morning? Or, you know, it's a good morning, right? And so, right, that those are the things that I think about, is what are these people going to say when you approach them? And so that's why I believe attitude is one of the most important things that you can do, because your attitude is going to determine whether you're in the way or on the way. So that's why I believe attitude is one of the most important things that you can do
Yeah,
when it comes to creating a high performance culture.
I hear you. I keep remembering to say, your altitude is determined by your attitude, or
Yeah.
just
Yep. That's it.
yeah. And what you're saying there, though, you know, despite you're in the U.S., I'm in Guyana. This is something, you know, we travel a lot and
Yeah.
experience from different countries, and you know, sometimes you end up in situation like yours, and you know, people could be really mean or they could
Yeah.
be really nice. Sometimes
Yes.
it's like really blow you away, and it's sometimes simple. You know, I keep thinking, if you really love what you do, nobody need to tell you to have a good attitude towards it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that you know, my wife and I, we've traveled to, you know, like help businesses and do different things like that. And one of the things that we always think about is, when you go into an organization, it amazes me if it's like first thing in the morning, so the business just opens up and somebody has a bad attitude. Like, what happened? Like you just got to work. Why do you have a bad attitude? It's just amazing. You know, I remember another time I was in Atlanta. Now, Atlanta is one of the busiest airports. I mean, like, busy. Actually, it was right after a Live to Lead. And so I get to the airport, and as I get to the counter, the traffic was horrible. And it was just really funny to me, because I get there and I go up to the counter, and the lady says, I don't think you're going to make it to the gate on time. And I said, okay, you know, no problem. You know, I'll go ahead and try anyway. And she goes, sir, you're not going to make it to the gate on time. And I looked at her and I was like, I'm not going to make it to the gate talking to you. So can I please have my ID so I can go run to this gate? So I take off, and I go down there, and I pull up, and the door is closed. So I think that I missed a flight. And I said, oh man, did I miss my flight? And she goes, which flight were you on? And I gave her my information. She goes, oh no, we're a little bit delayed. And I was like, whew, okay, we're delayed. So I made it. I was like, I ran all this way, but you know, okay, we're delayed. This other guy comes up right behind me, and he says, I'm checking in for my flight. And she goes, sir, we are delayed. And he goes, delayed? Who do you think you are? And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on right now? And he's like, do you know who I am? And he starts like literally like giving the lady a hard time. And I'm thinking to myself, why is it that people believe that they can just treat people, you know, bad? This lady held her composure. She was like, sir, you know, we there's some technical difficulties. We're delayed. And so the guy said, well, I'm going to call the CEO, blah, 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 blah. I'm this. And he like tried to throw his like his credentials around. So she said, sir, you can call Jesus if you'd like. This plane ain't going nowhere. She was like, right now, the plane is grounded. And so and then the guy looked at me, and he saw that I was running, and he goes, what are you smiling about? I was like, okay, you're not going to have a bad attitude with me. I said, well, first of all, I said, to me, and I would rather be on the ground with a problem than in the air with a problem. And so I am okay with the plane being delayed as long as I get to where I need to get to safely. And it's funny because I recently shared the same thing with my wife. You know, she had got somewhere and she was traveling, and she messages me and she goes, man, this is awful. She goes, my plane is delayed. And I said, would you rather the problem be on the ground or in the air? And she goes, you're absolutely right. She's like, I'm okay. But I think, oftentimes we don't realize that those are the things that happen, right? Like sometimes things happen and they're outside of our control. Because I travel a lot, I actually know that pilots aren't supposed to travel a certain amount of time. So if they go over their flight time, they're no longer able to fly. So sometimes you have to find a pilot, different things like that. So for me, I would rather be safe than sorry. And so, those are just a few examples of why having a positive attitude is so important when it comes to a culture, right? Like that lady could have yelled at that guy. She didn't. She had a great attitude. She was like, look, regardless of who you call, you can call my boss. You can try to get me fired, but this plane isn't going anywhere. Like, I'm not sure what, what you want me to do. So, it's interesting because a lot of people don't realize how important having a positive attitude is.
As you were speaking, I was thinking, are we able to see the glass half full or half
Yeah.
That's only what come into my mind. And this whole aspect of positivity, I think our world is just fueled right now with so much negative things. And
Mm-hmm.
first thing, people, they get triggered so easily and just lash out for anything. I,
Mm-hmm.
I used to work at the bank, and I recall there are different people coming up, you know, and even though you keep a smile on your face and stay pleasant, you get abused for that.
Yeah.
What are you smiling about? It's like, but it's not smiling in a mocking way, but it's keeping your composure and
Yeah.
understand what's happening. But indeed, when you think of the individual servant and to come to work with the right attitude and to be able to face, because you don't know who's coming in, and as you said, you don't have control over other people, how they behave, right? But you do have control over you and how you want to interact with that person. What are you going to say? Are you going to add fuel to the fire, or you're going to work with them to calm them down and to help them? But I do believe, though, Kristen, that the attitude is something, though, that maybe your environment that would have caused you to be in that kind of state, the way you were brought up, your
Yeah.
schooling, the whole environment. Because yeah, we're in a workplace, but what about the people also coming in, let's say the general public?
Mm-hmm.
Their attitude to we're talking
Yeah.
about a culture, that's a country culture, people just being abusive, or using words that just tearing people down instead of lifting, understanding, being empathetic, and all of that.
Yeah, you brought up something that's really resonated with me recently. I always do a lot of reading and a lot of kind of like just observing. And recently, I've seen a lot of people post a quote by Maya Angelou. And the quote resonated so much with me because of what you just shared. I don't understand why people feel like it's okay to tear others down. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I'm not okay with it. But the quote that Maya Angelou shared, a few years ago, a long time ago, was that hate has caused a lot of problems in the world, but has not solved one yet. And I don't know why people feel like it's okay to tear people down. Like love is one of the only things that can conquer all, that can help all. If you show somebody compassion and love and empathy, there's so many things that can get fixed with that. But hate has not solved any problem yet. And when it does, I'll be the first to admit that I was wrong. But having a positive attitude is great. But your perspective is important, right? So I do want to share, a vulnerable kind of like incident, right? So I've always been known to have a positive attitude. I try to be positive, and I feel like if I can breathe, I have something to be grateful for. So if I get up today, I'm gonna be happy. I'm gonna try to be, positive. I'm trying, like for the most part, I want to have a positive attitude. And I remember there was a few years ago, I was right on the cusp of deciding whether I wanted to retire from the military. And this incident happened. So I ended up running into an individual that I believe that they had a lot of hate in their heart. They were very I don't know what you would call it, but they were just very like spiteful. They felt like I was after their job, which I wasn't. I feel like I've heard people say I'm trying to make them look bad, and I always will say something like, I never try to make people look bad. They can do that all by themselves. Like, I don't have to make somebody look bad. Like, that's not my intention. I don't go out of my way to say, I am going to make you look bad. Now, what I will go out of my way to do is to do the very best job that I can do. And so in this instance, I didn't realize how much influence this individual had. And I was basically doing what I normally do, try to perform well, do a great job. And come to find out, this individual tried to derail my career. And I said, you know what? I'm going to try to have a positive attitude. So despite what happened, despite what ended up happening, I found out that they did, in fact, do something to kind of stop my career progression. And so in that moment, I was like, you know what? I'm going to continue to do what I got to do. And because of that, because of what happened, I decided that I wasn't going to carry around this kind of baggage or ill will against anybody that, whether they look like me or not, or treated me the right way. I am only responsible for the way that I show up. I can't be responsible for anybody else. So my perspective in that instance was, I want to continue to be the best version that I can be. So from that moment forward, it was about 5 years. I wasn't able to progress, to do anything else, and do any of the things that I would love to do in my career. But because of that, I became a better leader. I became a better father. I became a better speaker. I used every single thing that I learned through that situation to help me become the person that I am today. Since that time, I have been able to travel the world, speak all over the world, and like you mentioned, help organizations win multiple awards. So to me, like you said, I could look at the glass as half empty, or I could look at it as half full. You know, to me, I was just grateful that I got an opportunity to finish my career, regardless if I got to move forward or not. And I said, you know what I will not do is allow the people that have organizations, allow somebody like that in their organization to tear it apart. And so one of the reasons I am who I am today is because of that individual. So I could look at it and be like upset that I ran into that situation. But to me, I chose to look at it and say, you know what? I can learn so much from this individual, because whenever I go into an organization and I see people aren't being treated the way that they should be treated, the first thing that I do is try to identify, you know, what the source of that problem is. Is there an attitude problem? Is there an attitude tune-up that we need to do? What's going on, right? So, it hasn't always been great, and I haven't always had a positive attitude. But having a positive attitude is really important when creating a high-performance culture.
Yep, and it's always a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the next area that you had in mind?
So the next thing that I want to talk about is character. You know, character is so important. It's one of those intangible things, right? So attitude, I think attitude is very easy to see. You either have a good one or a bad one. Character, on the other hand, is not as easy to see. Your character is determined by how you show up. And I always laugh because your character can either propel you forward or hold you back. You know, I remember this young man, he came to me and he said, hey, Cristian, I wanted to see if you would be my mentor. And at the time, what's interesting is I was going through that situation that I was just explaining, where this guy was giving me a hard time. And so I did not want to be anybody's mentor, because I was dealing with this kind of headache. I'm having all of this hard time, and somebody's coming to me asking to be their mentor. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And so what's interesting was what he said. He said, I want what your team has. He was like, I've seen your team from the time that you've come here be happier, be more motivated. They started getting recognized. They're getting awards. Like everybody around you is always excited, and they're at work. Like, so like, it's really interesting because you don't see that very often. And I was like, wow, like, people are noticing that my team, is happy. And so this young man asked me for months to be his mentor. And again, because of what I was going through, I was struggling because I did not want to be, for me, if I'm going to do something, I want to be 100% in. And I felt like because of what I was dealing with, I wasn't going to be able to give him 100% of my attention. So I finally said yes. And Shanti, I kid you not. As soon as I said yes, the very next, like, I think it was like like 2 days later, this young man ends up getting a DUI. And I'm thinking to myself, this is why I didn't want to be anybody's mentor. That's literally what I said to myself. I was like, he goes out and he gets drunk and he drives. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so fast forward, I was thinking to myself, okay, I don't know how I'm going to let this young man down. I don't know how I'm going to tell him, like, I can't be your mentor. Like, this is exactly why I didn't want to do this. And before I get to do that, he comes into my office. He apologizes and he says, he looks me right in the face and he says, I understand if you no longer want to be my mentor. I instantly saw my child right in front of me. And I saw my son and I was thinking to myself, if this was my son, what would I want somebody to do? I wouldn't want his mentor to turn his back on him, right? To give up on him. And so I looked at him and I said his name and I said, look, this is a tough choice, but I'm not who I say I am if I just turn my back on you. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to recover from this. We're going to move forward, but it's going to take some work. And he was like, do you think we can recover? I said, I know we can. And so what ended up happening is for 2 years, we just worked and worked and worked. And I told him some of the things that I've heard John say. Hey, you need to show up early. You need to stay late. If there's anything that you see that needs to be done, you need to be the first one to volunteer to do it. I was like, you need to be like the best person, the best employee, the best coworker that you can be. He went and he did that. He found out that there was a lot of things that he couldn't do because of what had happened. And so this young man, within 2 years, Shanti, he became a public figure. He started speaking about his experience and how being held accountable and having a good mentor allowed him to move forward faster. He talked about how mentorship changed his life. He talked about how, it was important that whenever you make a mistake, you accept responsibility. And what that showed me is that when you invest in people and you have good character and they have good character, the opportunities are endless. And so this young man ended up going from having something that could have ended his career, like literally finish his career. In the military, when people get a DUI or get like in trouble like that, it's literally like it's not a slap on the wrist. It's do not pass go, do not collect $200. It's you're done. Your career is over. You can finish out your term and you're done. This young man came back from that. And to this day, he will message me. He will talk to me. He's like, hey, here's what happened. Here's what we did. And he constantly says, here's what we did. And I was like, no, here is what you did. He's like, yeah, but you helped me get here. Yeah, but you did all the work. You see, I could have tried to shoulder it. I could have tried to done everything that I could for him, but I couldn't do it for him. Right? I couldn't do the work that he had to do. And so when it comes to character, I think it's super important. And I think character and attitude go hand in hand. People, you want to have people on your team that that they have good character. And the way that you do that is by constantly, creating opportunities for them to, prove that they are who they say they are. Here's a customer comes up, they have a challenge, hey, how would you handle this situation? And you have them handle that situation. Here is a situation where, somebody is being mean to people. How do you handle that situation, right? Are you going to just yell at them? What are you going to do? And so I think characters is really important because, you know, there's these three things that people always try to do. And it's they have this baggage, right? And so when I have good character, you know, the kind of character that I have doesn't worry about any baggage that I've had in the past. It doesn't worry about any wrongdoing, anything like that. I am only focused on what happens right now in this moment. Now, when you talk about somebody that doesn't have good character, they think about three types of, and I like to use airplane analogies because I travel so much, but they have these kind of baggages, like if only baggage, like if only I could have, you know, done this, if only I had a better situation, if only I had thought of this. That's the kind of mentality that they have. Or they said the what now, like, okay, now that this has happened, what now? Like, what am I supposed to do now? Hey, my spouse is unhappy. What now? Like, they're always thinking about negative things, right? And for me, it's super important that you understand that character is man, it's so important because I've always been told that people hear me before they see me. You know, I have I think a loud personality, but I also am loud naturally, right? And I think it's the Hispanic culture in me. But as I as I think about it, I think sometimes, you know, people when you have good character, if people know that you have good character, they want to be around you. If you don't, they tend to be like cockroaches. They want to leave when you come around, right? They just scatter because you're around. So the last type of baggage that you'll have with people that don't have good character is what if baggage. You know, what if I lose my job? They're always thinking in the negative, in the kind of like what could happen. You know, I think the biggest problem in the world is that we've seen so many people not be successful because they're worried about the things that may not ever happen. The what ifs. What if my money runs out? Okay. What if I, you know, end up alone? What if I, you know, what if global warming happens? You know how long we've been talking about global warming? But all of these things are just things that will really challenge, test, and reveal your character. And so I think it's important that you have good character, especially when it comes to you dealing with situations, because your character is going to be tested when you are put to action.
Yep. Your character will precede you.
Yeah, it will. It will. You know, I was laughing because, you know, when I think about people around me and people that are like really amazing, I always look back at people in the past. I was recently sharing with somebody that I love listening to Abraham Lincoln, and they're like, "Do you listen to what?" And I was like, I listened to some of these people because of kind of like the influence that they had, you know, like how they commanded audiences, how they did different things. And I remember hearing Thomas Edison say many of life's failures are people who didn't realize how close they were before they gave up. And that's why I believe character is so important and why action is so important. Like, your character is going to be tested. And if you just give up right before you get to the finish line, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. You know, the things that I see is, you know, everybody thinks that every job is easy or that some jobs are harder than others. And I remember when I was young, I used to, this young man had asked me to go sell vacuum cleaners. And at the time, vacuum cleaners weren't like a big thing. And he wanted me to go door to door. And I was like, man, I don't want to go door to door knocking on, like, asking people to buy vacuums. People don't buy vacuums, right? And the reason why I didn't think people bought vacuums was because we had tiled floors. And so I was like, if we have tile floors, everybody has tile floors. Like, I didn't think anything like that, right? And so he was so funny. He was like, how many doors will you knock on before you get a yes? And I was like, I hope the first door I knock on, I get a yes. And he was like, it's not going to work that way, son. And so, you know, your character is defined by how long and how many doors you knock on until you get your yes. You know, how long are you willing to stick around? How long are you willing to push? You know, whether it's being successful, becoming a success, You know, people think that, you know, they might look at you and they go, man, she's an overnight success. Do you know how long she's been working at this? Right? Like it's been years of working and of character building, of grinding and development. And so I think character is super important, because when things get tough, you want to know who has your back. And that's where character shows up. When you have a team that, you know, if somebody comes and they said, this person was mean to me, if you have great leadership, you have a great team of character, what they will say is, you know what, we will take care of this situation. How can I best serve you? How can I best help you? How can I best make this up to you? They'll take care of the customer, and then they'll turn around and they will take care of the individual. They say, so can you explain to me what happened and why this customer believes that they were wrong? Why this individual felt like you treated them, you know, unfairly? And then you give the person an opportunity to explain, but because of your character, you gave them the benefit of the doubt. You gave them an opportunity to speak to you. And now you have a great culture because people know that regardless of what happens, you'll have their back.
You know, there's so many things when I think of character too, and your values.
Yeah.
We're talking your mental resilience,
Hmm.
how you show up,
Yeah.
you know, how you deliver, you know, how you in the grind, you know, sticking to it. And something that came when John Maxwell said that many people want to do what he does, and
Yeah.
he asks, "Are you willing to do what I did to get to what I have?"
Yeah.
But it is. Are you willing to put in the necessary work that is required to build a high performance team? It's not gonna happen overnight.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of work, and I think, I don't know. To me, I think this generation, this year, this present day, it's totally different from previous years, I would say. But it's not to be hopeless, but to think, okay, what may be required in that team or that organization? What is required that we can do differently? Because if you continue doing the same thing over and over, you know, what do you call that? Foolishness.
Insanity. Insanity.
Yes. So I do know that, you know, you gonna be insane and running an organization. So
Yeah.
you're gonna do differently so that you can work to build your team. So Kristen, I know that we are coming up to our time here, but
Yeah.
I do know you have one more point that you want
Yeah.
to, and so tell us about that one.
Yeah. So before I go to that, you know, one of the things that you said that really kind of stood out to me is, I think one of the things that I've always done, and I've always told the leaders that I've worked with before I leave their organization when it comes to character, is make sure that your people know without a shadow of a doubt that you have their back. That even if I tell a customer that they're right, I never in that instance tell them that my employee or my member was wrong.
Blame.
Yeah, I never blame them. I shoulder the blame. You know, make sure that they know that you have their back, because, you know, as Alexander Hamilton once said, stand for something or you'll be liable to fall for anything. If you allow anything to divide you and your teammates, you will never have a great relationship. You will never have a high performance culture. And that leads to trust, right? So trust is our last thing. And so how do you build trust with your team? How do you build an A team? To me, it's building supportive relationships, is looking at how can you create an environment where people know it's professional, but it's also supportive, right? Having the right people on the team is really important. And I think there's something that every team and every leader needs to really, truly understand. I believe that with any organization that you need to have 3 roles in that organization. And this is what builds a dynamic foundation of trust. And those 3 roles are a coach, right? You need to have a coach that talks to you. Coaches are individuals that can inspire you, bring the best out of you. If you look at people that performed at a highest level, You look at Michael Jordan. He was good. He became exceptional when he had a great coach, right? Somebody that talks to you, sees the things, and helps bring the best out of you. The next thing every organization needs is a mentor, somebody that talks with you, somebody that shares their experience with you. Like, here is what I did when I was in your shoes. You see, a coach talks to you from a perspective of, here is what you can do, and here is your potential. A mentor talks to you from a place of similar experience. It's like, oh man, here is what I did when I was in that situation. And everybody needs a mentor. And I think within an organization, that's why it's so important that you have a great training kind of like platform. You have a platform where when people come in, I love the analogy where you see one. So I see you do something, I do it with you, and then I teach it myself. So you see one, do one, and teach one, right? So I come in, you show me what I need to do, and I observe. I don't do anything, I just observe. The second thing I do is now I do it and you watch me. And then the third thing that we do is I watch you teach somebody else. That's how you create a high performance culture. That's how you build a great team where everybody knows what they're doing and they have a good dynamic. The last thing that you need, and I think this is the only thing that I've seen almost every organization miss, you need a sponsor. Now, a lot of people don't understand what a sponsor is when it comes to building a high performance culture. Now, a sponsor is somebody that talks about you. It's the person that talks about you when nobody's around in a good way. It's somebody that when you're not in the room, they make sure that you're in the room and they bring your presence into the room and they talk highly of you. You see, a sponsor is somebody that, let's say, for example, you and I are working in an organization and you have an individual that's a mentor to you, and I have an individual that's a mentor to me. And they go into a room and somebody says, hey, we're looking for somebody to take on the role of this. A sponsor will say, I know exactly who that is. You see, Shanti, this is what she does. This is how she excels. This is how she's become one of the people that I rely on the most. You see, a sponsor puts you in rooms that you may not be able to go by yourself. They allow you to be in rooms and in opportunities that may have not been afforded to you because of where you are. And I think that's one of the key components, is that we believe that because I had it hard, that other people need to have it hard. Because it was tough for me growing up, I need to make it tough for others. That's not true. You know, we need to create an environment where we give people a hand up, not a handout. And I truly believe in that, because I believe that as a society, we are to create an environment where we're constantly building people up, not tearing them down. We're supposed to lift each other up. So if there's ever an opportunity where I can make you look good in front of people, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to take that opportunity, because that's what I'm supposed to do. Even if you don't know it, in that moment, if I have an opportunity to be your sponsor, then I will, because that's what creates a powerful, powerful culture. And that's where, you know, people know that, you know what, even if I'm not there, Shanti's going to have my back. Even if I'm not there, she's going to know and want the best for me. And when you create an environment like that, the people around you show up completely different. They work harder, they show up differently. They're always excited because they know that if there's ever an opportunity, that you will make it for them. So that's why I believe that if we act right, so if we have the right attitude, we have good character, and we build trust, we will have a high performance organization.
Yep. And that spells act.
Yeah. That's why you got to act right, right?
Yeah, we got to act right. And it's interesting concept. And what you said though is important. And I see this also play out when a team doesn't trust the leader. Mm-hmm. They get a lot of pushback, and you know, you'd want to know, okay, what is wrong with this person? They're really good, but then when the leader doesn't show up. So I had an organization, I called one of the junior said that, you know what, I've been doing all of this work, and my supervisor he just go and he put it as his work he did and steal all the credit. You know, those are examples of how you can break trust, right?
Absolutely.
Or you might not you know, the team is working on a project and you are not pulling your weight, whether you're leading or just part of the team. You know, you're not doing your part. People would also not trust you anymore because they can't depend on you. And so, are you putting in your part? Are you showing up and you're doing your part, you know, and doing it well? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
man, that's so awesome. You know, one of the things that I learned so early in my career, and I think it helped me well, like tremendously, was I tried to give away as much credit as possible. And I had one leader come to me and say something like, you know, you're making yourself look bad. And it was funny because the leader of that organization was listening. So this individual came to me and they pulled me aside and they say, you know, you're making yourself look bad by always, you know, telling people like that your team is doing this stuff and that you don't do anything. And I said, I respect what you're saying, but I will never take credit for something that my team did. You know why? Because when I do a good job, it's on me. If I do a bad job or if my team does a bad job, that's on me. If they do a great job, it's on them. Like even if we've done something and I help them, I want to give them the credit because I am only as good as my team. And so the leader of the organization came over and he said, he waited till the person walked away and he said, don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's why he's stuck where he's at today, because he tries to take credit for whatever everybody else is doing. And I remember that individual sharing with me, if you treat people as they are, they will always remain the same. But if you treat them as what they can be, they'll become what they're capable of being. And what he was sharing is like, if you constantly treat the people around you, you know, as leaders, as, you know, like influencers, like everybody, what's crazy is like everybody on my team, on almost every team that I've been on, before I left that job, before I left that organization, every single person on my team always got promoted. Every single job that I was on. And that was a testament to their hard work, but it was also because I never tried to take credit for what they were doing. And most of those people still reach out to me today. Like, I never had somebody look out for me the way that you did. I never had somebody take care of me the way that you did. You're such an amazing leader. You know, what are you doing today? What do you have going on now? And now that you're retired. So, yeah.
but you know, it speaks about our choices. And I do meet people to continue doing, you know, the things them that will not build an environment where people feel that they belong, an environment where maybe people feel abused or used or whatever they might want to call it. But I do believe there's nothing is perfect, and we must know that we are doing our part. That is the key thing, right? And everything is not you know, rosy and nice.
Yeah.
There are situations that require sometimes you to put on your foot, but you could do that also in a respectful way, and you know, treat people with dignity and still let them know, you know, that the attitude that you bring is also not one to pull them down.
Yeah.
But yeah, and deal with the situation like that, because many times people, you know, when they listen to certain speakers and they're like, you know, they speak like if there's nothing bad, like everything is just great and there's no problem, or you know. But yes, there are times when some people will show up and really push your buttons and test you and all of that, but you have a choice in that moment there who you want to be. Your attitude, your character, everything will determine here now, you know, how you build trust here. I always say that you know, people got to know you and like you before they can trust you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they got to know that you have their best interests at heart. Like, I don't, you know, I think I remember John saying something that like people always want to know what's in it for them, right? And so people want to know that you have their back. And once they do that, then they're able to kind of like feel like, you know what, then I can move forward with this relationship. But if they feel like all you're worried about is how you can get ahead, it's going to be tough for you. So,
How much money you're gonna make, and
yeah.
it's only concern about you and how you're gonna look, and what about me?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and I think the pointers that you brought out is very key, and it's simple, but yet it's difficult for many of us to go and actually start doing that, to work on your attitude, to work on your character development, and how to build trust with not only your team at work, but team at home, the team, in your friends. How do you build trust? By the things you do and how you show up. And those are some, very simple, but yet profound kind of exercises that you could start building among individuals. And I do believe change starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
You could be the difference maker. Yes, you could show up at an organization or at the airport, and you have some people with a real suck attitude, and you can actually bring a smile on their face instead. We could flip it on both sides, and how we, just not in an organization, but per se in a culture, in a country. How can we bring change if all of us can, just work on we as an individual, work
Mm-hmm.
on you to build you in how you do things differently. And I think, it becomes like something, that a disease that spread, but this is a good disease.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
Positivity. So
absolutely.
Cristian, thank you so much for your time. I'm gonna leave the last word with you. And is there anything else you want to add before we close our program today?
No, I think what you just said is really important. I think, go out and be the difference that you want to see. We talk about all the negativity and all of the stuff. And if you remember that quote by Maya Angelou, hate hasn't solved any problems. So let's be different. Let's, be the change that we want to see and make an impact in the world.
And believe me, that's my motto by Mahatma Gandhi. Be the
Yeah.
change you wish to see. Stop complaining. Stop. And just go do what you can do. You have
Yeah.
control over that part.
Amen.
Thank you again, Kristen. And
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for your time.
thank you. And guys, thank you who are out there listening. Ask your question, post it in the comment section. I'm sure Kristen and myself will be glad to answer anything or add. If you have any stories or anything you would like to add, so that others can also learn from how you're building your team or building a culture in your organization there. What does that look like for you? And so that others can learn from you. This program is all about adding value. And we encourage you to ask questions and also keep adding value. Share this also with anyone that you think can benefit from improving their culture at their organization, how to build their team for high performance, and for all the right reasons, that is. So do share and let us know your thoughts, and see you in the next session. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.